Hello and welcome to Helping Other People Excel. I'm your host today, Jim Pate, and as the acronym for Helping Other People Excel is HOPE, we want to bring hope to you in your lives and in your world, help inspire you and encourage you along your way. So before I get started into that, I got to thank my sponsors. And our first sponsor, well, first I want to thank WCET for doing the production of this process. We really appreciate the technicians back there and the staff that work so hard behind the scenes to make this show all possible to come into your homes every day. So thank you, WCET. Also, pampermenaturally.com is a nice website for buying all natural soaps, lotions, and skincare. And their little motto is that if your skin could talk, it would say, "Pamper me naturally." So if you are looking for something for your skin, something to, we have a little kind of a challenge for you. You read the ingredients on your bar of soap or on your skin lotion or skincare lotion, and if it's got those foot-long words that have a lot of hyphens in them and hexamexadecyl hexamexichloride something or other, then that's something you don't want on your skin. But if you are looking for a good clean soaps and lotions you can put on your skin, our ingredient list is all good things that you can, most of it safely eat. So we want to thank Pamper Me Naturally for their products. And you know, with hope, we want to bring courage and hope to you in your heart and in your spirit, trying to be an encouragement to you. But then Pamper Me Naturally wants to be a help and a hope for you for your skin and your body. And along with that, we have Perry's Place up in Cedar Springs, 90 North Main Street. And Perry also works with trying to bring you good health. He has a lot of products there that are for people that are, lactose intolerant and gluten-free, a lot of gluten-free products. Perry has problems with those himself, so he tries to carry things in his store that are good for people that have those issues. Aside from that, he works with acupuncture and massage therapy and plenty of herbs and teas and more to help you with your health. So hopefully we can cover all the spectrum, body, mind, and spirit, to help you have more hope in your life and day-to-day living. So we thank you for joining us today, bringing us into your home. Last week we kind of talked a little bit about my story a little bit and how I had been on the hamster wheel. That's what I like to call it, where you just keep running and running and running, and every day you get more tired, it seemed like, and you get to the end of the day and you collapse off the hamster wheel into your bed to put one foot on the ground the next morning to start up and do it again. And you know, all of us have hit the snooze control and so on, trying to get a few more winks of sleep. And I know that many of you probably know exactly what I'm talking about because you're probably there too. And that's what I want. That's what I'm here to tell you about today, is that there's hope for you. And my story started last week about how I was there and how I, just struggled day to day to keep going, and how I found this hope. I found new information, and Einstein has said that if you want a good definition of insanity, it's the doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, And that's pretty much where I was. And on a hamster wheel, that's exactly where you are. You're running, you're doing the same thing every day, and somehow you're hoping that things are going to be different this time when you do it. And, if you want to get different results in your life, if you're not happy with your life, you're not happy with where you are, you feel like you're on that hamster wheel or on a treadmill or, just in a rut, which incidentally is a grave with the ends kicked out. If you feel that way, then, what you've got to do is you've got to do something different. The problem that we all have experienced, I'm sure, I know I did, is that what different would I do? What else would I do? We aren't taught to do anything different. We don't know to do anything different. All we know is our day-to-day routine that we've been in for the last 30, 40 years maybe for some of you. I'm not going to say for myself, but but it takes time, and you're in this routine, and you think about it every day and you think, boy, there's got to be more to life than this, but what would I do differently? And for me, I think I talked about last week that I tried to run a restaurant for a little while, and that just was more hamster wheel, just a different hamster wheel. And I got up and I realized that even though I enjoyed cooking and I enjoyed being with the people, it was a lifestyle. I didn't get away from there. I was stuck there all the time. If I wanted to go out fishing on a nice day, I couldn't because the restaurant needed me, my customers needed me. And, so I tried that as something different, even though I didn't really know what to do. I kind of took a leap of faith and said, well, I'm going to try this. And of course, there was a considerable learning curve there that none of us really anticipate. But that learning curve, of course, meant that I spent a lot of money to try and keep this little restaurant going, and ultimately ended up that, I ended up closing it because I just wasn't making it, and I just realized that I didn't want to throw any more money into it. So, but I did recognize during the probably 9 months that I did run it that, it had a hold of me. I owned a job. A job owned me. I had nowhere to go, and if I didn't do it and I wasn't there to work it, then things went horribly wrong. And so I was looking all along, and I think after a while I kind of stopped looking because I just felt like there's no hope. I had no solution. I had to just keep doing what I was doing because that's all I knew. And it was, many of you may have said, one foot in front of the other. And, well, how's it going? Well, I'm doing okay considering, and that's a typical response. That was certainly one of mine. And that one foot in front of the other routine of just being an old plod horse with the little blinders on, and you're just kind of going down the rows, pulling that plow because it's the same thing you did yesterday and it's the same thing you're going to do tomorrow. And what a burden that was, and how tired I was at the end of the day, and just struggling to keep going and to find the motivation. And it's been said that many men die at the age of 26 and are waited for 76 to be buried because they lost hope. They lost the motivation. They lost the drive. They saw no light at the end of the tunnel. They saw no ending to the rut that they were in. They saw no end to the hamster wheel because they just kept running and were getting nowhere. There was no success. There was no end. It was always going to be that same old thing. And I can't tell you what a relief it was to discover that there is hope and that there is relief, and there can be for you too. You don't have to throw away your dreams because you think that I'll never get those now. Certainly not this age in life. What am I going to do? How am I going to go forward when I'm this old or whatever, And in, I believe it was The Magic of Thinking Big, Dr. David Schwartz talks about how that's age excuse-itis, he called it. And I hope I have the right book there, but it's one of those good ones anyway. And you can find those good books at my website that JB will put on the screen here for you. But at any rate, he talked about age excuse-itis. And maybe you think, well, I'm too young. That's one form of age excuse-itis. I'm too young. I could never do anything at my young age. I've got no experience. I've got very little skill. I've got very little education at my age. I'm too young to accomplish anything great. And that's just a really bad disease to have because you're never too young. There is no too young. All these things are excuses that are designed to keep us from our purpose, from our goal, from that which God created us to be successful and to live a victorious life. And that's what God wants for us. I spoke on another show recently about On Heaven Is My Home with Pastor Gary Myers about how it's just you're never too young. You can't make those excuses. And, there's always time. It's just a matter of starting, and getting started. But at any rate, with Dr. David Schwartz, again, the other side of that coin is maybe I'm too old, and that might be at my age something somebody my age might say or think, well, I've lived 50 some years already. I'm too old to get anything new started now. I could never get the ball rolling in time. I would have no success. And all these excuses that we give ourselves, which really are not good excuses, but they certainly are detrimental to our success. They're detrimental to our moving forward. They're detrimental to our being victorious and living that life that God intended for us to live, And Gary's show talked about how we were all born for a good purpose, and that we were all born to excel, and yet so many of us find ourselves in the ruts and in the hamster wheels, only because really, after I've discovered, is that we just lacked the right information that we needed to really get going and to really accomplish what we needed to in life. And God, it was said there that God He did a lot of planning before we were even born. We were in His mind, we were in His thoughts, and we were in His heart before we were ever created. And yet we go through life thinking that we don't have to do any planning for our lives. We just are going to get up tomorrow and do whatever comes our way. And that's not the way it is. It was said recently that success doesn't happen by accident. If you look around at all the successful people that you can think of right now, and you think about them, do you think that they just accidentally fell into what they did? They accidentally became successful? No, they didn't accidentally become successful. They planned. They had a goal. They set a target and a goal, and they had some place that they were aiming their ship. And we've talked about ships in previous of our shows about setting a ship free and not having a crew on it, or not having a goal for it to go, and how it will wind up a derelict, according to I forgot his name now. One of my favorites. I just love watching that video of his on YouTube. You guys probably know now as I said that, but anyway, I'm drawing a blank. But he said, you can't just do that to a ship. You can't load it full of cargo and just kind of start the motors and say, okay, there you go. No, you've got to give it a goal. You've got to set a goal for it, a target, a destination for it to achieve. And then combined with the crew and the efforts that they use and do, then they begin to accomplish that goal, and little by little they slowly get there, and then they finally arrive at their destination and are able to deliver their cargo. And our lives are so much that same way. We cannot expect that we can just drift along through life and never have a plan, never have a goal. And sadly, that's what I did, and that's where I found myself, and that's why I found myself in that rut and in that hole on that hamster wheel, is because I didn't have a goal. I didn't have a plan in my life. I just drifted aimlessly at whatever came by that day, and I just did what I could do and thought that's how it was supposed to be. But it's not how it's supposed to be. And if you want a different life for yourself, you too can have and live the life you've always wanted. You just need to set some goals. You need to do what wealthy people do. You need to do what successful people do. You need to think about things. You need to, like God did, and God planned you and created you to be the magnificent person that you are, with all of your talents and your abilities and your skills. He gave you all of that by planning that ahead. And we really need to plan our lives. We need to set some goals. And so I've encouraged all of you at various times through my show, and I want to still encourage you even today to take a few minutes and think about, what was it that I wanted when I was a young man, when I still dreamed? Can you go back to that point before you lost your dreams, before you found yourself on this hamster wheel or in this rut? What was it that you really wanted to do? What was your life aspiration in life? You go out to the playground in the sandbox and you see the little guys pushing their cars around in the sand. And this one's got a fire truck and he's going, woo, woo. And he's running his fire truck to some imaginary accident somewhere. But, he wanted to be a fireman maybe as a little boy. Or maybe another one had a police car or an army man. Or, they all had tractors, yes, a motorcycle, whatever it was. What was your dream or aspiration? What was it that for you that really touched your heart or inspired you? What was it that motivated you back then? Because, still can't remember that guy's name. The Magic of Thinking, no, not The Magic of Thinking Big. It's The World's Strangest Secret, Earl Nightingale. He said, thank you. He said that, now I forgot what he said. Man, I'm going to have to do something about this. I got that CRS disease. I can't remember sometimes. I lost my train of thought. But he said that young people at a young age, many of them they speak highly about life, and they have a certain enthusiasm when they wake up, and when you ask them what they want to do, they have a goal and they have an idea, and they know what it is that they want. And somewhere along the line, you and I say I because I was in that same boat. I lost that. I lost track of what excited me about life because I got bogged down with, I got to pay the mortgage, and I got to pay the car payment, and I got to, make sure that my employees have jobs, and I got to schedule these jobs, and I got to order equipment, and I got to worry about how I'm going to meet payroll at the end of the week, or maybe, in your case, you got to worry about whether or not you're going to have money for groceries or gas in your car, and to get to work and so on. But whatever those burdens are that we wind up in life, they steal our dreams, they steal our goals, they steal our excitement and our enthusiasm toward life. We had that at one time when we were young. We had that enthusiasm toward life. So go back and think about that. What was that? What was your dream? I met a gal a long time ago, and she had come out of a bad relationship, and she had been a factory worker for a while, and she said, I really always just wanted to be a nurse. I started out to be a nurse when I was a young gal, and I got my candy striper's certificate. Back then, that was what they had. She said, I really just wanted to be a nurse, but, I'm kind of old now, and we get back to that age excusitis. And she said, it's kind of late to be going to nursing school and stuff. And I said, no, it's not. It's not too late. You can still do it. There's many people that get started in nursing later on in life. And if that's what really drives you, if that's what really motivates you, then you should do that. And so I tried to encourage her at the time to go into that, and she did. She took that and advice, and she decided to go do that, and she went and got her certified nursing certificate, and she's still working with elderly people today, those in need of care, and that was just her passion in life. But so I don't know what your passion in life is or was. But you need to find that again. So you need to go back and think about it. And you need to go back and think about, so many times we need rest. We need a break from our day-to-day running. And I firmly believe that that's why God instituted the seventh day. We should rest. He said we should take a day, one day out of 7, and we should rest. And he didn't do that because he was God and he wanted you to jump through a bunch of hoops. He did that, and he said that because he knew that you needed that. He knew that I needed that. We need that break from our work week. And so he gave us 6 days and said, in 6 days you can do all the efforts and work you want to do. Toil in your fields, work at your factories, do whatever it is that you need to do for your work. But on the 7th day, he set an example, and he rested himself. And, when God himself sets the example, and he rests on the 7th day, that's a pretty significant thing. And so, we need to take some time out from our hamster wheel, and we need to take a minute and take that rest. And so many times, just taking that break away from, even in your day-to-day thing, if you've got a problem and you're focused on it and you're trying to fix it, and you just can't seem to find the answer, sometimes just walking away from it for a little bit and take a break, have a cup of coffee or a Pepsi or something. Not that I'm advertising for Pepsi, but, take a break, a nice big cool glass of iced tea, and sit under the shade tree for a little bit. And just don't think about it. Just put those thoughts away. Just relax and think about something pleasant. Think about maybe your dreams. Because the more we think about those dreams, as Earl Nightingale said, what we plant in our mind is what will grow there. And so the more we think about those dreams and the more we develop that desire and that yearning, and that's why it's so important that we should think about God as often as we do and dwell on his teachings and his word, because that takes hold in our hearts and becomes reality, and we start to live what we think about most of the time. And that's the amazing thing that Earl Nightingale talked about in The Strangest Secret in the World, is that we become about what we think about most of the time. And so I really want to encourage you. You need this. You need to take that break from your day-to-day activity. You need to remember back to that day that you had a dream and what it was that your dream was, what your goal was, what you really hoped to accomplish in life. Maybe it was an astronaut, like so many have done. Maybe it was the fireman or the policeman, or maybe it was just a fishing guide, Papa Bob's Bodacious Bait Juice. He just loves to fish. And that became his life. He did what he loves. And it's been said that if you find something that you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I believe that's so true. And so we really need to get back to what it is that burning desire that was in your heart. Because I believe that the reason that burning desire was in your heart in the first place is because God planted it there when you were born. He said, you know what? I'm going to make this one to be a doctor. I'm going to make this one to be a social worker in a third world country and to help develop schools and churches there and to help with nutritional needs and how to grow crops and dig wells and things that people need in some of those countries. And so he put within each one of us a burning desire, and somehow we've managed to extinguish those burning desires with the day-to-day cares. And I think that some people don't want to admit that there's a devil, and I don't know that I'm here to argue that question, but what I will say is that I believe that it's the adversarial part of our world that exactly does just that. It tries to help bury our burning goal or our burning desire within our heart that God planted there, because if he can quench that, if he can suppress that, if he can get us to forget about what it was that God put us here for, then we won't accomplish that purpose, and in that way we fail, and I believe that that's really the only way we fail. If we keep our minds focused on the goals and dreams that we have, God has given us an amazing mind. He's given us an amazing bodies. And that's where, some of our sponsors come in and helping us keep those bodies healthy. But he gave us the tools we needed to accomplish the purpose that he set before us when we were just born, even before we were born, when we were still in the womb. And he was already creating us. And, we talked about on Heaven is My Home ministry today how God shapes in the potter's wheel. The artist takes a big lump of clay and throws it on that wheel and begins to spin it. And as it spins, he begins to shape and mold it. And there's a little tough spot there, but he knows just how to work with his hands to get through that little tough spot. And eventually he forms that vase, and it starts to begin to look like a beautiful vessel. And how as he starts to put the finishing touches on it, might have a really thin, delicate edge around the top that he might trim in gold. And, he's a master artist. When he created us, he knew what it was that he wanted. He knew what it was that he was creating when he created you. There was no mistake. He'd already planned that out. He'd already made that and created that purpose for you, and he put it inside your heart. He broke the mold after he made it, that's for sure. And it's also been said that, there's some people that maybe their goals don't seem as lofty, or maybe their ambitions aren't as lofty, but they maybe want to just be the maintenance guy at their church and mow the lawn and trim the grass and take care of things around there. But you know what? If it's in their heart and they do the best that they can do, that was their purpose. That's what God put them here for. And, I just really want to encourage you today to look for that purpose again. Find that purpose in your life. Think back to the days when you were young and what your ambitions were and what your desires were. And, even how you want to live your life. We've been kind of taught things backwards growing up. We go to school and they tell us, go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and you'll live the American dream. However, many of us have already followed that path and have gotten nowhere. It certainly wasn't the American dream at the end of that rainbow. But we find that wealthy or successful people do that the opposite way. They don't ask what they want to do and then go to get a schooling to learn how to do that, and then that defines their future or their income or their livelihoods. But they do it backwards, or the opposite way. They first sit down and define what it is they want out of life. They sit down and say, okay, where would I want to be in 10 years? Where do I want to be in 30 years? Where do I want to live my life? How do I want to execute this purpose that's in my heart, And maybe some of that includes having some break time to spend with their families, that they can vacation in a tropical climate somewhere. Maybe they long to have a yacht or a boat. Maybe they long to have homes in several countries so they can travel as they minister to people in those countries. And whatever it is, we certainly find that people that have finances, money is so much like a tool, like a table saw. If you learn how to use it properly, or maybe we go back to the example of the potter's wheel. If you learn to use that potter's wheel correctly, how you can create such beautiful vases and such beautiful things for people to use that can serve well. And money is the same way. You can have no money, and many people think that's admirable. Many people think that that's what they're expected, that, money is the root of all evil. Well, it's not money that's the root of all evil. It's the love of money. But money is a tool, like the potter's wheel. And we can either use it for good or we can use it for bad. Like fire is a tool. We can use it to stay warm with, or we can use it to burn up our trash, or we can use it to burn down a neighborhood or a forest or something of that nature. It can be used for good or evil. And so many men today take their money and use it to accomplish evil things in our world. They use it to further tear down and further suppress you in that desire that God planted in your heart to be what it was that you wanted to be. And they use their money to keep us so busy trying to earn a living and trying to decide whether we're going to put food in the table or gas in the tank, that we can't accomplish anything more. We're just constantly spending all our effort and all our energy on that hamster wheel, and we can't possibly help anybody because we have no money. We have no means. But if we could take the money off the table, money is not a bad thing. Money is a good thing to those that use it for a good purpose. Like fire is good, being used as a good purpose, or a gun can be used for a good purpose or bad purposes. And so if we take and raise up men, raise up people who take and earn good money and make a good living, and then they can use that tool to accomplish good in our world and to help other people get off their hamster wheel or out of their rut, and help them multiply their happiness in their lives and in their family. It's that individual changing of ourselves that's really going to make the difference. I wanted to change the world when I was a young man. But I found, after everything was said and done, that I could really only change myself. But that in changing myself, I indeed would change my family, I would change my community, and I would change my nation, and ultimately change the world. And that's what we're here for. We're here to try and help you learn that you can really only change yourself. There's nobody else that you can change. But if you will change yourself, if you will come up with new thinking, if you will get that dream and desire back burning within your heart of what it was that you wanted to do as a young person, and get that to start to grow again in your mind and in your heart, there's no age excuse-itis that can hold you back. It doesn't matter if you're young. It doesn't matter if you're old. It's never too late to start that. It's always the perfect time to start it. We need to get started, we need to move forward, and we need to do the best that we possibly can do, and we need to learn what that was. I'm running out of time again today, and it seems like these half hours always go so fast, but I sure enjoyed spending the time with you. I want to thank you for letting me come into your home and spend this time with you, and I hope that there's something that I said today that touched your heart, that maybe encouraged you and gave you some hope, helping other people excel so that you too can see the light at the end of the tunnel, that you too can get off the hamster wheel. Please drop me a line at jim.pate@gmail.com. If you've heard something today that's touched your heart, inspired you, we'd love to hear about that. Or you can give me a call at 616-799-0517. And we look forward to hearing from you. And thank you again so much. You have a great week. And remember, you're smarter than you think you are, stronger than it seems, and you can do it. I forgot the last half.